It's working! Hey! Yeah, I'm the little guy down in the corner of the screen. I hope my voice is loud and clear. Look, I have played around with recording software that allows me to use Bluetooth mics and whatnot. Obviously, to do this video, we need to hear it, so I'm going to just play it through the speakers. I lose a little bit of a sense of awareness in the world. I think when we're doing these types of titles, when the audio attached to your ears matches the world and where you're looking all syncs up, it causes less fatigue. Okay, so hopefully the title of this video is Legendary Tales, playing it raw until I'm sore. Look, whilst I was a VR player back in the early mid-90s, played a lot of pterodactyl challenge and that sort of stuff, and I've bought through various platforms over the years. I'm fairly familiar, but very much a techie. That's hopefully the angle I bring to this video is a little bit different. I look at like CPU being used and like look at the minimum specs for this game. They're so high. The developers, they played around with Unreal Engine 5. They actually had to backtrack that work. They found that it was just too intensive for the current hardware out there. They realised it would have limited their sales, so they reverted back to a build of 4.27 or whatever they were using of Unreal Engine. Prior to that, they had spent at other times in development many months moving modules forward in various builds of Unreal Engine. So this is a team of people that are obviously working many hours every day, putting a lot of effort in over many years to build a game that's really niche. Okay, so probably a bit less talking now, maybe I'll talk a bit more in the game. But yeah, look, hardcore RPGs are very niche. Back in as far as the 90s, they weren't even 5% of the market. The people who sell hardcore RPGs found that the more they dumbed them down, the more sales they made. So that's why Morrowind eventually became Oblivion, which was arguably by many a very toned down game. Oblivion then got toned down a little bit more, and that became Skyrim, and that's probably one of the best-selling RPGs of all time, right? And so a lot of people confuse what is known as the action RPG genre, which was things like your Diablos and whatnot, which were the sort of things that would break your mouse with like 1 million clicks over a certain amount of time. But I mean, they were a very different type of game. They were like Dungeons & Dragons rule set light in a game which was all designed around can you click your mouse around the screen really quickly. And so traditional RPGs were very challenging, were very difficult. Nobody wants to make those games anymore. And we can argue that Baldur's Gate 3 came out recently and has had exceptional sales. Well, when the market's not flooded with hardcore RPGs, that's what we get, right? Like when one comes along, everyone wants to buy it. So people are saying that this game, Legendary Tales, is actually quite expensive. We've got to vote with our wallets. When you're making a niche game hardcore, or the way that you would actually want it to be, and there's not a lot of people out there that want to play that type of game, that means you've already said, if there's 10 million VR units sold, and you're 5% of the market, at best, if your game is perfect, you get 500,000 sales, at best. And that's assuming 10 million as the base, user base, which these markets don't have, right? So there's not a lot of unit sales to look forward to when you make a game like this. And that's why when the market's flooding with a type of game, we see it overdone. We see the skating games in the late 90s, all of a sudden there was, nobody wanted to do Tony Hawk's Skater. A couple of guys in a shed, Neversoft did, and then everyone wanted to clone it. God, it's successful. First person shooter, corridor shooter is the market seller. Every company focuses on it, right? At the start of the 2000s, we had so many space combat games that we literally, there was 5 coming out every other week. Well, it wasn't, but there was many each year for quite a few years in a row. And that actually meant that nobody wanted to touch that genre. And so we kind of lost it for a very long time. And that's why Star Citizen and a few other games are just so highly sought after, right? So if the type of game you want to play is a niche, in a niche, i.e. if you like RPG games, which is a small section of the market, and then you like proper hardcore RPG games, then that's even a smaller section of the market. And then if you want to play that using esoteric hardware, right, the sort of stuff that not everyone's buying into, right, and that's even a smaller segment of a smaller slice of a small slice of a tiny pie, right? We are talking here so few software unit sales to look forward to if you're the developer of a game like this. So for anyone talking about the price of this game being fair, right, because it is, right, like, please do vote with your wallets. Now, what is it worth to vote with your wallets? Well, it's worth everything, right, because that's how the industry is decided. So if you want more games like this, I'm willing to put down 10 or 20%. I did the math today. I sat there and went, okay, what if I wait a couple of months and get the game 10% off? And I save less than $10. And I thought, okay, no, not enough. Not enough to not get it day one. I thought, okay, what about 20% off? I did the math and I went, yeah, that's a meal out. And then I went, what if I can get 30% off? And I thought, how long am I going to wait for 30% off? Because that would nearly be enough to actually have saved some serious money and be worthwhile. So, right, I've opted, very, very rarely, don't usually buy anything day one. I learned many years ago with the industry going the way it was, I just buy all my games a couple of years down the track, generally when they're on sale. I do support the software industry, but I don't spend 100% top dollar on it, I have to admit. So, I'm coming into this, I've seen no video footage. I didn't watch the state of play, I don't know anything. I've done a little bit of research on the dev team, I've looked at what they've been building. These are people who under-promise and over-deliver, right? It's absolutely fantastic. We don't get enough of this in the modern world. They look like they're pretty honourable people. They don't overspeak anything. They literally keep their cards pretty close to their chest and they like to surprise and reward. Now, for anyone in the early access on PC who was saying, oh yeah, it's been yonks since we had updates, there was dialogue from the developers a long time ago that said whenever we're trying to put out updates, there's a whole cyclical process that takes us out of the loop of actually building the software the way we want it to be. It's too much micromanagement to maintain incremental updates. We'd rather just fold them all together. So there's the version 1 update, right? It's coming out, it's out there. At the time I grabbed this, there was 32 reviews on the PlayStation Store, and they were all 5-star, right? So it's only been out for a couple of hours. I've done downloads, 7 gigabytes, 6.96 gigabytes at this point in time. I haven't checked if it's version 1 or 1.01. One of the early reviewers had a save bug, which they lost 35 hours of their gameplay. With discussion with the developers after that, the developers did do a fix, and they're very confident that is the fix for that. So anyone that's a little bit hesitant, I'd say just do it, right? For the 1 or 2 people on Reddit complaining you can't respec your build, right? That's just called gameplay, right? You can't let every single person, especially when you're in a niche of a niche of a niche, you can't let everyone have their way, right? That's just the way it is. Some of us don't like the fact that when you play Oblivion or Skyrim on PC, you've got F5 and F9, or you've got keys for quick save and quick load. And arguably they take just about all the challenge out of a game. If you can, oh wow, I opened that chest and I didn't get killed, okay, save. Oh, I killed that hard dude, I didn't get killed, save. I'm about to go into a hard fight, save. Right? This ability to be able to just incrementally gain an inch in your game, and then save, and then gain an inch, and then save. For gamers like me, it takes out a lot of the challenge. People in the forums are just like, oh, just have discipline. Just don't respec your build. Just start a new character if that's what you want to do. Right? The reality is, not everybody wants to feel like they're punishing themselves when playing a game. So we do need to trust in developers having a vision. They know the way their software comes together. They know the experience that they are going for. Most of the best experiences I play, as someone that likes road games, you might play 10, 15 hours of a game and you're pretty poor at it and you still haven't learnt the mechanics and you don't really understand the way the developer wants you to play it. You keep trying to play it the way you played every other game and you make no success. And then you start to think, oh, this is like a puzzle. How am I meant to approach this game? And then you start to change the way you play it. And all of a sudden, you're playing the game the way the developers intended you to. And all of a sudden, you find it's a new gameplay style and it's a new market segment of game type. We have to trust our developers. But when we find developers who are building the visions that we want, support them. That's my vote. So look, money where my mouth is. I just threw my money out the window. I've backed these guys buying software that's basically unproven from a company that's basically unproven. Quite willing to do that. It's a niche title in a market industry sector that I really want. So it's on 2 platforms. It's on PC. If we look at the minimum spec on PC, it's one of the highest minimum spec games I've ever seen. As outside of your Hogwarts Legacies or your open world games, which are typically the hardest for hardware to render, massive requirements on RAM speed, CPU speed, and those two coming together, as well as your GPU to render the world. Not all titles are like that. Most titles, especially non-open world titles, can be highly optimized to suspension of disbelief, give you a sense there's a greater world around you. But when you're actually doing an open world title, so when I was playing a bit of Skyrim yesterday and running around the grassy area outside of Whiterun in a highly modified game in open cities, everything's loaded in memory and it's all just running and running ideally fairly smoothly. It's hard. Grass could just number of the ways that you can break a machine is huge. When you come to open world games, it takes a lot of understanding where you're loading the video card, where you're loading the CPU to keep everything maxed out. Now, from what I can see, these developers have done exactly that. They have chosen a CPU spec for the minimum PC build, which is a few years old, but a fairly decent CPU, and fairly equivalent, arguably, to your consoles. But for the multiplayer, if you're going to host and run a multiplayer game, you need a little bit more CPU overhead, and as CPU requirements go, that's a little bit over the top. But if you look at the base bare minimal spec, the amount of CPU they are requiring, right? You can put anti-aliasing on your CPU, or you can do certain aspects of lighting on your CPU, and if you know that your console hardware doesn't do real-time ray tracing, figuring out where you can load multiple CPU threads and setting your baseline to like, 8 cores, 10 cores, 12 cores, 16 cores, whatever. If you say, hey, this is how many cores we can have, and we're going to use them all, quick, find some CPU code to make use of that, put more animation in the bats flying and have them figure out in real time, or lots of pathfinding for the way birds fly through a scene, all stuff that in earlier years would have been pre-canned, would have been pre-animated, pre-calculated, and just the code would have been in there. Suspension of disbelief is everything, right? We didn't have real-time ray tracing when Sega Daytona came out, and you could see the reflecting clouds on trackside in the windows of the cars. Looked really impressive. So look, suspension disbelief is a large part of it. I do believe this is going to be using the hardware it's running on really well. It's meant to be 4K HDR, which on the OLED screen should be really impressive. 4K, I'm not really sure if they really do that. I mean, that's really the foveated rendering, arguably, although maybe its native resolution is that, and then foveated is, of course, wherever you look, there's as much detail as it chooses to focus on. Look, I've used foveated a little bit in the past. I generally don't want all the infrared lights shining into my eye constantly, so I usually have that turned off. I've tried it a couple of times. It's a pretty good trick. It's a large part of the tricky hardware that is in the PlayStation. They changed the RDNA 2 base setup. They pulled out all the stuff that was for Hollywood light sourcing that wasn't needed for gaming. They actually dedicated that to an early Z color, which basically means if you can't see the back of an item, there's no point using a whole bunch of triangles to render it. There's no point putting lighting on it and shadowing on it and all that sort of stuff. So with the Sony's slightly lesser powered than the competitors' hardware, apparently, because it was modified silicon customized to do gaming, it's actually got a lot more throughput. It's about 40% more powerful, arguably, than the competitors. And in the real world, we consistently see about a 20% uplift in difficult to render areas that can benefit from that early Z cut. So, look, I'm probably going to be missing out on any concept of Tempest if there's Tempest audio in this game. I feel like I'm going to be missing out a little bit because I'm going to be playing it through speakers. When I say raw till I'm sore, I don't want to make you sore before I get raw doing this game. Thank you for the long lead in. If you've just skipped through to footage or you didn't hear me saying this, for anyone that's come along for the longer journey to learn a little bit, to meet someone in the process, then look, it's really nice to have you here. I'm really glad that this was the title that brought us together. I don't usually do a lot of content. I do believe that hardcore niche RPGs, being a genre I like, need some support, so I'm going to support just by doing a video. As you can see, I've got no experience whatsoever of this title yet. To be fair, I like to, as a PC technician since the early 90s, I've been building and overclocking gaming systems since the mid-90s. Pretty hardcore technician, arguably, engineer, if you will, building an IT type equipment. But gaming in particular with a focus on, if it can be overclocked, it's been overclocked by me. I've played with so much hardware over the years. But when it comes to my Saturday morning or whatever time I get to offline and enjoy my entertainment, I actually moved away from PC gaming a couple of years ago. I've got a video card more than twice the grunt of the best in the consoles on the market. But why do I buy Baldur's Gate 3 on PlayStation? Right, it's just an easy, reliable experience. Right, so this is a system I keep in my music den. This is my little tech zone, if you will. So I haven't turned it on for a couple of months. I had to do a system update. No doubt when I turn all the equipment on, each individual bit is going to need to update. So outside of plugging things in, I haven't really turned anything on. I do keep that as part of this. So if you're a PC gamer, you can see what the competitor's platform is like as a total to use. Right? So anyway, you can see it's already turned on. You can see I've downloaded it. So at this point, let me begin. So I suppose the first thing I should do is turn this on. The older generation headset actually required that you have it on a flat surface when you turned it on, so the little gyroscopic sensors in it could be set and calibrated flatline. I there's been no talk about that for this platform. So my guess is, I mean, I believe it's still doing it. Saw there was a video yesterday that you couldn't play this platform. I think they're on a ferry or something, like on a boat that must have been going up and down, and just that altitudinal change must have been playing with all the sensors. So I'm just getting my charged up hand controllers there. Right, just had to go off screen for a second. That to me looks like a left, that to me looks like a right. I might turn them on now. Alright, fully charged, there we go. So, in a moment I'm going to turn the room light off. I'm just trusting, because it hasn't been used for a while. I mean, really I should be recalibrating the foveated rendering. I should be doing a few things. It's not because those settings get forgotten, it's just because I've moved this in and out of cupboards. Chances are I've bumped my little roll wheel, all the settings might be out just by a little bit. But, yeah, you know, let's just see if it is really plug and play. Something that we were promised back in the 90s, this concept of when USB was coming out, and we all referred to it as plug and pray when Windows 98 first gave us these features. But in the real world, oh, look at that, straight up, and that is looking really good. That is looking really good. And I can just go gadon. Hoo hoo hoo. Okay, so that was just instantaneous. And here's the bit where it should be doing this. I should be able to, oh look, it remembers my old settings, it does. I've got a bit of a play zone here, fantastic. Okay, okay, instantly, the super high res. Wow, people were talking about poor quality textures, no way. As someone that's bought Skyrim VR on a couple of occasions on a few different platforms, it would require a highly modified PC version to touch this, and to run it this smooth, no way. They actually put features into the VR version of Skyrim. They changed the way the map rendered. There was two effects. There was a snow effect, and it stopped dual card gaming. And therefore, yeah, to get the frame rates needed on, say, Skyrim VR to do this would be quite hard. Now what I'm noticing at this point is we haven't got any sound, so I'm just going to drop back to my menu here and just make sure I've got things set up the way they should be. Right, again, I should have really done this beforehand. No. Aha, I know what I've done. I've got to turn one device on. Click. Must be set to the right input. Yep. Oh, okay, there we go. Yep. Yes. Alright. Yeah, I think that'll work. Number of channels is arguably 2, but that's all kind of moot. Right. I think that's enough to get us out of trouble. At the end of the day, I probably won't be doing all the hardcore stuff. But we do have sound. The volume seems alright. It's just music, so it doesn't track with me. Wow, there's something about, I've played Red Matter 2, which I think is at 120 Hz. Big fan of the concept of running no reprojection at 90 Hz. I've seen a few games, but I've not seen any look this sharp and this clear. Paper Beast was amazing. Really gave you a sense of that HDR pop. But just, yeah, looking around this zone and having seen the menu on Skyrim VR, and it kind of gives you that sense of, oh wow, and you know, it gives you that sense for a brief moment, oh, this is going to be cool. But then once you get in the game, you just realise no. But it's a sense of scale. Like when you played Skyrim VR, if you went to Whiterun and you went to the Thal's, the Jarl's castle, what is it, the Sky District, and you go into the palace, but you walk to the left, you go into the kitchen, and you're playing it on Pancake Gaming, flat screen. The kitchen's tiny, and you play it in this method. The kitchen's huge. So look, what I should maybe do is turn down the in-game sound so that my voice stays fairly loud. So I might just drop my volume just a little bit, just to make sure. Somewhere in that ballpark, look, I don't know, could make a difference. But yeah, this is awesome. This is really nice. So I'm just going to stand back a bit and recalibrate there. Oh. What have I done here? Alright, so yeah, that is me. That's me facing forward. No worries. if I hit my recalibrate button, it wants me facing off to the side, so I don't know what that's all about. Okay, it wants to tell me about that. Now before I saw some green lights jutting out like a laser. There we go, from there. Yeah, I really want that to be facing. Yeah, okay, well that's all good. This is beautiful. If that's a mirror. Oh. Okay, now I've got to admit, I don't have my legs. A lot of the games that require movement, I love my pistol whip, I love my synth riders, but other games can make me a little bit nauseous. Oh, the hand tracking is amazing. That's not doing the finger tracking, that's okay. Okay, obviously we don't have limb tracking, so I'm just, for anyone who can't see, I'm actually just moving my leg around in the air, but it can't do that. It's using some intelligence though. It's definitely got a CPU cycle or something to... It's been a project in the last couple of years where people have started to figure out, based on math, that if your hand is over here, a body will naturally counterbalance with a foot movement, and it seems to be doing a lot of that stuff. So, you know, I can see where these guys have really loaded the CPU up. There's a lot of subtle stuff going on. Again, the texture quality is amazing, and playing on a pre-calibrated OLED such that your contrast and everything is just right is just amazing. So I don't know what I'm resetting there. I guess this is my calibration. I'd love to just walk over here and get a weapon. Don't know if we're at that point of the game. But the world is so immersive that just for a second, if I may, I'd already lost my point of reference to the room that I'm in, which is awesome. Okay, I'm a big fan of that. That's how immersive that world is. When I hear, like, my neighbour had a girlfriend over and they were doing a boxing game on a quest or something, and she just punched out his computer monitor. That happens. So look, I don't mind losing where I'm at. That's fine. This is incredible though. I really have already been given a sense of I'm in the world. So I probably should be doing some more calibration stuff there. So the manual, I'm going to guess, is a explanation of how the game works. It's nice how I seem to be zipping around in this corridor in different areas. Oh wow, okay, yep, so you can... So most old IT people like myself generally will never play a game without having gone into the settings and changed at least a few things. Probably worth my time to have a look at a few of these things. Oh yes. Yeah, right, you can adjust your hand position. Position. That's amazing. There's probably going to be some complex systems in this game. I'm reading that at the moment the two-handed weapons are the weak spot. But again, this is before people are playing the version 1 version of the game. This is like the early release version. So why am I not getting that? Okay, so. Crossplay, wow, you can play with PC gamers, fantastic. Alrighty, so yeah, it's all set up there to be going, nice one. Seems to focus on the left hand as the master controller. I'm not really a fan of turn, although arguably I should be doing snap as a person who hasn't got my legs. If I can get the turn speed right and it feels like it's normal, then that's good. So I probably want that. Oh, fantastic. Be nice if they had a little calibrate here where I could just double check where it currently is. Oh, wow. Okay, so already anyone who's watching this, your saliva should be starting to build up. You should be getting anticipation for this game. Anybody who could see that will understand that you can set your back holster up. So do you prefer to draw your sword, and what your methods are for how you wish to play. You can come in here and you can customize that, right? That's huge. So that's all good. I'm just going to go complete. All right, that's all good. So maybe that calibration there would allow me to double check a few of those things. necessarily have a method to get out of here. Okay, yeah, awesome. So just about every level, the person should be able to calibrate this the way they need it to be. Now, I'm having an issue getting rid of the menu. Oh, this could be a climbing simulator. Maybe that's where I came in. I'm going to go with that's where I came in. Yeah, a little bit concerned the fact that there's not a single button which is letting me get rid of this menu. Alright. Oh, I think I had to hit start game. Okay, so there we go. I did have to hit start game. Oh, okay, feels better than Kayak, feels better than so many games already. The last worker I was playing before it got the update to the native fast non-reprojection. Oh yeah, natural movement is good. 70 as a turn speed's alright, but I can't say it's a latency. What I am going to do though is make that snap, if I may. So, oh, I think I've lost my ability to bring up a menu. Okay. Oh wow. Two fingers, and okay, so L1 buttons. Peace out, guys. Oh, hang on, let me just make sure I'm facing the. All right. Okay, so L1 button, L2 button. Can you imagine playing a tactical shooter and being able to do actual hand gestures? You know, like, oh yeah. Anyway, this is great. Okay, yeah, well that's fair. Okay, I'd be wanting to change the hold button time to get rid of messages. It's a little bit long for me. This is amazing. Okay, so I can't take that and craft it on the end of a piece of timber and create myself a scepter with light shining out of it. Okay, now that is some serious draw distance. I mean, you get the feeling that's a texture in the distance, but the way the secondary ridges have been drawn, that might be polygonal. Seems pretty high res. The concept this is running at 4K. And you look at all the jagged edges on all this rock. Okay, so I'm just going to take a step back. So the harder genre to render is analog environments. If anybody remembers back to Dragon Age Origin and Mass Effect, the reason why Mass Effect could run, sorry, I should probably read this message and get rid of it. By pressing indicated buttons, okay, yep. Addition of the tabs at the top of the inventory screen provide access to various features. Awesome, so triangle will get me to where I need to be. Yeah, that delay's a little bit too long for my liking. Right, so when Mass Effect and Dragon Age were coming out, the reason why Mass Effect would run on a laptop at full frame rate and everything set to ultra is that when you have to render things out of triangles, rendering a flat wall is 2 triangles. When you have to render a tree, right, a rounded surface with jaggies all over it, the number of polygons or triangles you have to use to form that object is ridiculous. So this game is clearly working on the basis that it's got the early Z-Card built into the customised RDNA 2 hardware that the console uses. And if you're doing this on PC, you're just going to have to brute force it, right? So just around this corner, the cliff face with all of its angled jaggies, if you're playing on an NVIDIA 4090, complaining that your frame rate's not as good as a PlayStation, it's because on my console's only rendering what I can see. Now that's less relevant to regular gaming. Once you go over to dual screens running simultaneously, you need to drop the number of triangles you're having to calculate by a significant amount. So this is a classic example of where the console hardware is just perfect. Just really, really, really. And if they've optimised the game at every single level to use this, holding your hand close to it and pressing the button showing it makes sense. That delay is too long. Now, I just want to double check. I'm just going to quickly somebody doesn't want to headbutt my table right in front of me. Hey, good to see you. Just wanted to duck out there for a second. Oh, beautiful. Oh, really beautiful. Now, a message had come up there several times. It was probably telling me how to holster my weapon. I didn't pay attention. Oh, I love the way it's buried in the snow. Oh, I just picked it up. Anyway. So look, I've seen enough games to go, look, there's no point holstering that. I'm probably going to need that. Okay, so that's not got any interactable physics at this point. Now, a few people have argued that the trailers showed physics that the release game didn't have. People in forums have actually spoken about that and said, oh no, it's a perk in game, and there's certain scenarios where you engage that way, and yes, you can beat a skeleton up or hold it while your teammates take it out, and then you can piff it off a cliff and you can have all the fun. Without dropping it, press and hold it up and show it. Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, so, oh wow, that's totally true. Oh, I can shaft this timber, this hard piece of wood. Alright, I've got it, solid, I really do. I think I just turned it into a two-handed weapon. I think I just turned it into a left-handed weapon. Awesome. Anyway, that's good. So look, I'm going to forget a lot of this. I will certainly be starting a second game after I've been playing this for as long as I can possibly play it for, just to try out more. Now, the speed of this game is amazing. Okay, so alpha, right? See the mist rolling through here and rendering this perfect white. That's one of the shortcuts that most people do, is you drop your colour depth down, you drop your channels down, the RGB and the colour depth you're processing things at. And usually where you see sacrifices then done is in your mist, right? So back in the early 2000s/late 90s when we were playing with Glide and 3D effects and all sorts of things where we're starting to get 3D technology, you'd look at your rocket trails in Unreal Tournament or Quake, and that was your way to see what colour depth are you running? Like, how much have you toned the game down to get your frame rate high? What sacrifices have you made? Now visually, one of the places where you can catch it out is in the mist, and I can tell you the speed of that mist and the analog nature of that mist. Now, even if it is a pre-canned animation for the way it rolls over itself, I'm not seeing the repetition. It looks to me like it is interacting with the cliff face, like it's sort of almost pushing out. Now, obviously, it can't be. If it is, that's crazy amounts of math. But it's about the disbelief, right? I'm at this point in time believing what I'm seeing. The illusion is good. So I'm going to just come over here. Okay, solid object. I would like it to make more sound. Some sound. Might be something that comes in time. They do look like a pretty active team. They need to make their cash, but when you look at how much they keep giving, I have a really strong concept. This game is going to get some awesome updates and stay very active and very relevant for a long time. Alright, so if I throw or attack them, I wonder if I can throw. So, get that one. Ooh, haha, I must have bumped that triangle button. Here we go. So, even just the texture for the background of these things, you start feeling like you're playing classic tabletop RPG straight up. It just makes you feel like it's the amalgamation of the best of digital and analog, of entertainment regarding this industry, or this role-playing game era. Alright, so what do we got? We've got Vitality, Wisdom and Luck with the 3 primaries. So it's got primary and secondaries. I think the primaries can go up 50 times, the secondaries can go up 35 times. The concept is that you can have a kind of multi-class character. Like earlier games like Oblivion and Morrowind, it was more a case of the skills that you're using are the ones that actively go up, and the way to... arguably Oblivion, Skyrim was doing it as well, but the better systems were going back to, as far as I could figure, Oblivion had some really clever stuff going with the way stuff was leveling up, and the notion of I mean, you could just jump around in that game and your acrobatics would go up and whatnot, but there was always tricks. And so anyone that plays this game hardcore and plays it for a long enough amount of time will probably start to learn all sorts of intricacies. The developers who have put the game together really seem to care and are passionate about this genre or type of game. Okay, so there's a whole bunch of tabs at the top there. Excellent. So my triangle button apparently was what brings that out. I'll use the same button to put it away. Oh, okay, so delay on that sound effect wasn't so bad the second time round. I'm just going to try and work that as a two-handed weapon, and I really should learn how to use my, putting it on my belt. Okay. Yeah, right, so the concept of hitting it harder is a real thing. It'd be nice if these parts didn't delay, they're less than 3 seconds. But part of that was still animating and falling when it dropped off the screen. So if it was console only, they could load the hardware up as much as it could go. The fact that it's also on PC, there's a lot of resources there that might need to be freed up constantly and consistently. You can argue that there can be more RAM on PCs and whatnot, but keeping the triangles and having an unknown amount of triangles in the game can catch out and therefore drop your frame rate below the bare minimals that you need to maintain that suspension of disbelief, the smoothness. Okay, place of death. All items equipped at that time can be retrieved later by pulling the sword out of the stone. Alright, so if you die, body on the ground, stone, get your sword and get back in the game. Right, so I want to detach that hand. I want to go to this hand. Oh, straight away I swapped to looks like a long sword there. I think I've dropped down like a broadsword or something a little bit smaller, but kind of do want to keep that axe. Now, ooh, I've got a scepter. Oh, here we go. So 2 to 4 damage on it. Yeah. Oh, okay. So that's just saying it's as a weapon, the shield can do 2 to 4 damage. Awesome. Oh. Okay, so so I can compare there, those two. So they're both the same. I mean, obviously an axe, I don't know, if it's a physics-based brawler, and if I'm up against skeletons, traditional RPGs would be like, look, your sharp weapons aren't so good, you want more of a blunt weapon like a mace. I look at the back of that axe, and the fact that I can hold it with different bits of the grip. Ooh, okay, so the number of triangles just there. Oh, and there is some interactive physics there. Okay, so the mesh isn't perfect, but the fact is I can feel it slow down. I can feel there's a very, very subtle vibration that goes to your other controller to let you know you are now interacting with something. And it does feel like a resistance. It feels proper heavy. Something which people complained when Killzone Mercenary came out. They didn't like the fact that the I've walked quite a way. But they didn't like the fact that the weapons had weight, and therefore when you were turning, if you're holding a big weapon, it turned slower. People like myself loved it. Point to it. Information window will float product to the item directly to your enemy. Point to it and pull the button as shown. Pull, was it R3 or push R3? Pull. I'll pull it down maybe. Okay, let's just do that with this. That's on that. Oh, it's a R3. Oh, I think I did. Yeah, so the R3, pulling it towards me, so quite logical. These developers haven't just used the control schemes of everybody else, or maybe they have. I haven't played enough titles, but they've really thought out the controls. They thought about the way the brain would process the way you interact with something, and they're incorporating that. Now, for me, that really matters. I'm not a fan of contextual interaction. I like dedicated buttons or for things to be consistent. Either side of your waist or your back. Open a quick slot, press and hold the indicated button. Store items in the slot by moving your hand to the slot and releasing the button. Okay, so press and hold the indicated button. Oh, oh, I think that's a dash, and there is a recharge time on that. So I wonder if I can do that and a dash simultaneously. No. Maybe I only had 3 of them. Maybe I've got a stamina bar I can't see. I love lack of head-up display. Right? Games like Dead Space, where you're looking at on-screen information that's in the real world to try to figure out what's going on. Look, this is amazing, right? As someone who calibrates OLED panels, has been calibrating TVs for decades, about every 6 months to 8 months I recalibrate OLED because the red, the green and the blue will perish at slightly different rates. So to keep everything the way it should be as it was out of the factory and basically reference takes a little bit of effort. But when you're playing on a visor which has the capability of being world-class reference quality, because the only thing that matters is colour and contrast. The way the brain interprets that, there's different parts of our eyes, there's cones and there's rods, and they interpret colour and contrast separately. And so for any technology we buy, be it digital cameras or any screen we look at, the two most important metrics are colour and contrast. Right? Resolution doesn't mean shot. You can discern resolution from colour and contrast. So when you see a game like this run with such perfect colour and contrast, and my concern was going to be low-res textures or low colour depth textures, and there's just none of that going on, right? And so when people are saying that there's no in-game shadows, and shadows give you that sense of depth when you look at things, I'm one of the people that turns all the ray tracing on PCs, and people say, oh look, if you compare screenshots, there's bugger all difference. And it's like, yeah, when you compare screenshots, but when you see it in motion, right, the way that light is reflecting off my sword blade gives me a true sense of where things are. Now that's interesting. I think it's treating the player characters if I've got lights on me. But wow, even the facets of the blade not having any pixels, right? Anyone that's played Kingdom Come Deliverance on PC or even console, worse on console, but even at 4K on PC, when your dad is making a sword at the start of the game, and you can just see the jaggies down the blade of the sword, and you know, even if you've got cranked anti-aliasing and running at 4K, it still looks pretty poor. This here, people complaining that the graphics in this game are basic, right? This floor is not flat. They haven't just made this floor out of 2 triangles, right? It's all over the place curvature. You actually feel like you're in an analog environment. This sword and the precision of it, and the way the light changes depending on how it's touching. I mean, you know, we're living 24 years on from when bump mapping first came about. All the different technologies visually that are going with this. In fact, there's even a red reflection of flame. So I hope they haven't wasted too much math on the light model that reflects off my sword, but the concept of movement of it through space and the frame rate, it's one of the best experiences I've ever seen. Definitely. This is absolutely incredible. Cool. Okay, so I wonder if it's a stamina bar. No, if I hit it soft, it's not hurting. Okay, it's not marking the texture, which is good. I don't know if they're using the haptics perfectly for that slight sense of resistance. Okay, the frame rate there's feeling a bit lower. You can feel there's a bit of calculation going on. But there's a difference between the resolution we see a game at and the resolution that the game world is running at. And that's become one of the cheats in recent years. The first game I saw that broke it and went the opposite direction was Forza Horizon 3. And it was obvious that the game world was running at a very low resolution, and then it was being upscaled to a screen resolution that was whatever you set it to. Whereas this here, the actual world resolution, I can see when I was just sliding my sword up and down, is huge. This is really high-tech stuff. Okay, slicing, using a blade sides of a weapon. Yes, piercing, yes, we're going to be doing that. And bludgeoning, what are we going to use? Any non-blade? Oh, wow, okay, yes. If you make attacks in quick succession, the damage inflicted will decrease. Yes, this is a light attack. If you leave intervals between attacks, it will be a heavy attack and damage will not be reduced. So things we expect, but let's have a look. Right, so bludgeoning. If you gotta remember, if you're a hardcore RPG and if the enemy takes more damage from a bludgeoning type, right, this is just a test dummy. It's saying the base damage you're doing is 5, 3, and then, you know, if it's less, it's 2 more. But remember, if the enemies are weak to bludgeoning, changing up the way that you use a weapon, the sense of pushback is awesome. You know, it's got to have lost sync with my hand there. It caught back up pretty quick though. It's tracking really well. And look, I've been a playtester in my life. I love trying to break games. That's what I do. Whenever I get a game, I try to test the systems. I try to see what is going on. Okay, low res texture there. First in the game. You know, it's a case of play spot the low res texture, which when Hogwarts Legacy came out, there was like a landing on some stairs between levels in the school that was just like obvious. Oh, that's an error. That's a low res texture. They didn't mean to leave that one in there. This is epic. Now, I don't believe I'm going to be able to hurt that. From what we've already seen, the vases don't seem to have a great physic on them. Levers, throttles, buttons, etc. that can be interacted with. Okay. Let's see a button. So, doesn't feel like Legend of Grimrock. Everyone knows it's a puzzle type game. I don't drive pad or anything. But anytime you get to a point like this, I mean, for me, this is Dungeon Master. If anyone played back in the early days, we had Dungeon Master, then we had Eye of the Beholder. Ultimately became Ultima Underworld. There we go, 1 and 2. So this is just playing Ultima Underworld in real time, which was the evolution of the games before it, which it was perfect. And then we haven't seen them. Haven't seen that genre done well for a very long time. Now, okay, the white lines keep telling me that I'm right. So I am consistently losing my sense of awareness of where I am in the world. Just going to check we're still recording. We are. Thank you very much. This is the first time in all the time I've been playing any games that I'm consistently feeling this way. If I play Pistol Whip for a few hours, yeah, maybe. But yeah, the immersion of this world is so complete and so full on that I could see this being, you know, it's games like this that make people go, I don't want to play other platforms anymore. I want all games to be like this. I mean, I downloaded Blacktail. I bought Blacktail 2 days ago. You know, it's not going to really feel, okay, is he walking backwards? No, his limbs seem to be bending, his right elbow seems to be bending a bit wrong, like his arm is twisted in a socket that's no longer there. Yep, there is no ball joints. I'll tell you what, that is a skeleton made up of bones. That is fantastic. Now, he's not attacking me. Ooh, okay. At that middle distance, I'd estimate he's about nearly 2 meters away from me. The sword on that skeleton is looking like the sword I was describing from Kingdom Come Deliverance, with your dad working on it. Not very aggressive, no. He took a while to let me look at it. The developers have programmed this first one. This is definitely the tutorial level. Okay, so I didn't have my shield down low. Oh, this is great. So, for anyone who talks about frame rate mattering in games like fighting games, it's because a fast frame rate allows you to see a punch start. If you know the punch animation and then what's going to happen, it allows you to preempt and or hit the other person. So when you've got a system like this, which is interactive, and it's running at such a high frame rate that allows you to track in the air and see what's going on. Right, brilliant. Okay, so I think my block damage was the actual thing that took him down just then, but my intention was to take out his right leg. A lot of people are saying that this is the game they wanted Undead Citadel to be. Those people, though, I can only guess have not played Undead Citadel, and because it's disappeared from the shop, there's one of two things. One is they wanted to, they eased off the accelerator towards the finish line so that they'd sort of disappear from the race and let these guys just charge ahead and make sales. Or it might be that they got an early wind of what this game was going to do to all future games in this genre and realised that probably best to go back to the drawing board just a little bit and build in some better replayability. So it might be they're adding some challenge modes or something, or they might be putting in an RPG Lite that is a little bit more than just an arcadey. I mean, I don't know if it's on rails. I took me here Undead Citadel, but this game here is just fantastic. Like, even if it was linear at this point, I would say it's absolutely one of the better versions of these types of games I've ever played. The concept that they made the game world 60 times larger in the time that they were developing. They went from being a tower and they went, you know what, we're going to make a world around it. We're going to make it so you've got areas to go to, biomes, so to speak. They've really put the effort in. Oh, my goodness. sufficient speed, can cancel attack rate. Okay, yes, cool. So decent tutorial. Some people online are complaining about the quality of the tutorials. Don't know about that. They did the sound design last, is my understanding. Yes. So that might be why when I was tapping that vase, it wasn't making a sound. It could be the least feedback they've had, because version 1 updates only just come out, like IE this week, IE today. So really we're back all into playtesting, the new update. They hadn't done an update for a while. They did want to fold it all into one, troubleshoot it all together. Okay, see the lighting on that second skeleton off that point light source? Okay, so think items might not generate shadows underneath them, although I thought I saw some shadow there coming off something. Oh yeah, this is fantastic. This is really fantastic. Okay, so the first thing you want to do there is get a scepter out and blast that piece of timber that's at a wayward angle and drop that thing and get the rag or food or whatever's up there as a reward. You know, what developers in the world don't reward you for walking to every corner of the map? It's actually not something I like. I like having games where you walk to some distant mountain peak and there's nothing there to reward you for it. That is the best looking campfire site in any video game I have ever seen, bar none. These sacks where people have been sleeping with the blood in them, this is literally the most immersive role-playing game I've ever seen. If I had the ability to take my scepter out and cast a fireball at that and set it on fire, I would be pretty freaking stoked. Ooh. Thinking that means I haven't got any spells yet. Alright, so got a bow on my back. I've dropped a sword. Right, I want my sword back. Got a bad idea about this. Oh, there we go. Oh, yep. Okay, so it shows a holster animation. Alright. Again, these things become automatic over time. Okay. Now, twice I've had the inkling of, for me, a sense of, I get a little bit uneasy sometimes in big open virtual worlds. In some games it's been usually within seconds of playing. I did have that in the first environment briefly where I said it loud and clear, it was that I should probably set this to snap turning. But I always believe you set out the way you wish to continue, right? You do that in anything in life. And ultimately I would rather put the time in every day and develop my legs. But the trick to that is as soon as you start to feel discomfort, disconnect, right? Don't start programming your brain that this is how you're going to think and feel when you're doing this. You kind of want to, just break up that stage. So one of the things I do is a bit of a trick. Other people on the net do it. I told my friend, I'm doing this. He's like, oh yeah, every guide on the internet says do that. I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. But you might see that I've got a fan off to the side. I usually have dedicated dice and I just have it sit. So in such a way that it tells me exactly where I am on the floor. Because that's not a dice and it doesn't have a little tunnel of air. So normally that fan would be set in such a way that I would stand just here and I would have a sense of when I step forward, when I step back, I've stepped out of my little current of air and then I can just step back into it, and it just allows me to know when I'm in my virtual world where I'm actually standing in my real world. So today I took my dice into a workplace and left it in there. So I set a pinch a different fan that was from the shed. I'd set the turning speed a little bit higher. That's about the only real change I've made so far to the settings that I've seen. Oh, okay, he's just gone Burko. Oh, and he did, he fell in such a way. Oh, I wish I could use my foot and just kick the thing in the head, eh? Oh, this is brilliant, and I can even into his rib cage. Oh, wow. Oh, the locations and the bend points. Oh, that is brilliant. Oh, the math. This is some of the best technology I've ever seen. This revolutionises industries. This is the game, right? Okay, so look, I've only been playing for, I'm going to guess about 15 minutes. My recommendation, this is a must buy, right? Haven't even opened my second door in the game, haven't done very much. Obviously I'm not a reviewer per se, but I understand technology. I understand gameplay, I understand the devs are all about that. I believe, based on what I've seen so far and the love and the TLC that's gone into it, having played at least 15 games in the last couple of months, that inside of the first 5 minutes there are so many things broken with the game that you're just like, no way. If they couldn't even get the start of the game running in such a way that, you know, suspension of disbelief, if you break it even before the game starts, good luck winning it back. And I'll give you an example, Elex 2, right? They have cutscenes where they're cutting from daytime to nighttime to daytime, and there's so much jank inside of the first 10 minutes of the game that you then have to actually actively tell your brain, okay, now just forget that, and now just enjoy the game. This here is the exact opposite. This here is perfection. Ooh. Okay. I'm really liking that. So what I'm going to do here, just so you at home, if you've enjoyed this video, right, it's just a little bit different, I guess, to everyone else's videos out there that are probably trying to run through the game as quick as possible and get achievements and whatnot. I might stop this vid right before I open that door. I might then do a part 2, so that anybody that wants to just learn a little bit about the game without any spoilers, that's this video, right? Beyond that door, that's a different video. So I think that's what we're going to do right now. Even though the title on this might be Playing Raw Till I'm Sore, the playtime difference between the end of this video and me then going through that door, right? I'm not going to be playing it, and not filming it. I will be filming it, but at this point I might stop. I might upload this so that other people can get a feel for it. This is definitely a must-play game. Right. So obviously it's just saying that the traditional RPG trope of, oh wow, okay, oh, sense of weight, oh that was beautiful. Beautiful, guys. Okay, you got to crush them, have you? Wow, oh, gloves, brilliant, gloves. Needed. How do I wear it? Right, I want to wear it. Oh, I wonder if I can just do more damage by wearing it. Oh wow, I hadn't caught the reflections. Again, the number of polygons. It's one of the highest resolution, most detailed bits of... I expected this to be so much more janky, so much more obvious of the triangles because it was claiming 4K, because it was claiming these incredible numbers you just people don't get. Oh, hang on, I believe if I hit this button, let's go into here, can I put that there? No. Oh yeah, maybe. Don't know my button for dropping stuff into the inventory. Really want to kind of wear that. Tell you what, if I got a jewel or something, I could slap them around the hand, the face of it. That looks like kind of serious stuff. I mean, if you really want to be a professional nose picker, you get yourself a tool that can do both nostrils and one of your friends as well. In one go, save time. All right, come on, break it, break it, break it. What am I going to do? Look out both hands. No. Oh, maybe something like that. Oh yeah. Okay. Oh, helmet. Okay, so that doesn't wear it straight up. Oh, here we go. Okay, I should probably learn how to... Ooh, unequip. No. Okay, so unequip means I'm guessing it is equipped. It's in the inventory. Okay, it's equipped. Let's do the same with the glove. It was saying pull the right joystick towards you to put the item away. It's not happening. A little bit of clipping there, that's okay. Okay, so it's no longer equipped. Alright, so I need that. Oh, that's my right hand, of course. I want it equipped. Okay, so it did keep the... Good. Oh, no, there's my head. No, there's my belt. Right, okay. I might come back to that. That there, should put that away. Right. Obviously, you wouldn't want to play a game like this without wearing your armour if you've got some. Look, this is incredible. So before I go running through that door, again, I'd probably turn up that turn speed just a little bit from the default 70. The physics in this game, the view, the speed of everything animating, the world is just amazing. Right, so I'm just going to crouch down here. Oh, get myself a nice little hidey hole, and fantastic. Oh, game menu. Right, so I'm just going to PlayStation button my way out of here. No, that's not doing it for me. Right, there we go. That game is fantastic. That is absolutely fantastic. Okay. Wow. Okay, so highly recommended. Yeah, that's not a small recommendation. That is probably one of the best tech experiences I've had in my entire life. Right. For anyone that is in the industry making these sorts of things, check out your competitors. That game is fantastic. For anyone that likes RPGs at all and has the ability to get on board with this title, I would say absolutely do it. I don't know the devs at all. I've certainly never been in contact with them. There's no relation, there's no profit here. I've got no reason to upsell. I don't support corporations or big companies and entities. I always support the little people and the society and the community. So for me to be so passionate about something, and again, just as a day one purchase, that's not what I do, right? I literally did this because I had a feeling that sometimes when a niche game comes out, a lot of people play it and they go, oh, it's not really for me. You know, when Returnal came out in the early life of the PlayStation, and everyone's like, looks good, but it's not my type of game, and it got negative reviews, and I was like, well, the only fault it has is being the perfect version of the type of game that it is, but the problem is the game that it is a hardcore niche game. Right, so arguably this is a hardcore niche game, right? Like, it's fantastic. This is the sort of game you want to see more of, right? You've got to let the world know, statistically, that games like this sell really well, right? So I would recommend, even though you might be able to save 10%, that apparently the devs don't do much of a discount when it goes on sale. So you might save less than $10 by waiting a long time for it, okay? A long time. But this is a multiplayer game. This is a game you want to play when everyone else is just as inept as you are. Get it day one. Just do it, right? I never advocate that. Never, ever do I want to upsell something. I say, maybe consider it. But no, if this in any way ticks the boxes or hits the buttons that you personally like, right? This game is rare. It's unique, and from what I can see, it is superlative. Right, love that. There's a $5 word, superlative. Right, this game is fantastic. Can't really say I played it for more than about 10 minutes, but from what I've seen, anyway, part 2. Hopefully after this, a lot less talking, a lot less intro. Just getting straight back into it. Thank you for spending time here with me, and hopefully see you in part 2. You be well.